But boy, did I grow from that. You know,
Yes.
it was pretty painful. That's a painful place to be. I would never wish that on anyone. But the lesson that I learned from that situation was really that I had the ability and the power to decide how I was going to manage my money. And that made all the difference in the world for me. And I think for me, that was kind of like that light bulb moment when I said, you know what, I can't do this because it's not just about me. It's also about my kid. And even now, I still feel that way because I feel like, saving and investing and making sure that I have adequate resources saved for retirement, it's not just about me because I do have a son and I don't want to be a burden to him. So I want to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to be a good steward over my resources and not to have that type of impact on my son's life.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting show of the About That Water podcast, where we help you build strong financial habits. Today, I have an awesome guest who is going to help you outline your retirement, but not just outline your retirement. For those of you who are looking to retire, this is the place to be. So the person that's coming to stage, as you all know, CPA is a tough exam. And come to find out that less than, maybe even around 2% of people that are CPAs are actually African American or Black. And having that understanding is like, this is a rare opportunity to have this lovely, tough conversation inside the Black and Brown community. So I cannot hold her back so much more because she has so much value to add. Thank you for coming on the show today, Renee. How are you doing?
Hey there, Anthony. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to jump on a stage and talk all things money because this is what I love. And I just want to add that, not to toot my own horn, but I am a CPA and I'm also certified as a financial planner as well. So I will generally work with business owners as well as individuals, helping them to develop a healthy relationship with their money so they can save more, so they can invest, and so they can build wealth. So I appreciate the invitation to come here and share on this stage with you because you out here doing it.
Oh,
I want to be like you when I grow up.
I greatly appreciate the flowers now. But I mean, you've been doing this for well over 2 decades. So, you obviously have a wealth of information, but one of those things, or in your opinion and expertise, has been the toughest part about retirement.
What do I think has been the toughest part about retirement? You know
Yes.
what? I would say really getting people to plan early for retirement. It's one of those things where a lot of the clients I get, because the clients I work with, they are Generation X. So they're a little bit older, they're in their 40s and older, and oftentimes they have not started saving for retirement. That's actually my specialty, is working with people who are, who may feel that they are getting a late start on retirement. And so what I would love to see is that I would love to see more education around retirement, more education around just saving and investing, and helping people understand that the sooner that we can get started, then I think, the better, because we can build wealth when we understand how money works. I think a lot of people generally don't know how money works, and it's not their fault. We're in a system that really promotes consumption, 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 but there's not a lot of education around the importance of saving and investing for the future. So I would really like to see people start earlier when it comes to saving for retirement. But at the same time, understanding that even if they are late bloomers, it's okay because you can still make an impact on your future.
Yeah. So let's start. Can you dive into the late bloomers? Because some of them might have never even, like, don't deal with the internet too much, and having a, like, don't know where to start when it comes to that. Where can they start if they are late bloomers?
So I would say really, in all honesty, start by getting some help from a financial advisor or financial planner so that you can take a look at your financial situation today and see based on what you've done today, and then also understanding what are your goals? What do you visualize retirement looking like? I think a lot of people don't really think about retirement much until they, like I said, till they get into their 70s, and then they start thinking about, oh, wait, retirement could be like, 20 years away or maybe even less. And some of them just don't like their jobs and they're ready to
Right.
go now.
So true.
They're like, I gotta get out of here. Let
All
me
right.
figure this out. I hear that a lot, actually.
Mhm.
And so I would say really start with a planner, because what a planner is going to do is they are going to kind of walk you through that journey where, they want you to kind of visualize what retirement looks like. Then they're going to take an assessment of your finances. They're going to look at your income. They're going to look at your assets that you've accumulated to date. They'll look at your debt situation to see, do we need to put a plan in place so that we can start, eliminating or getting yourself, out of debt. So they're going to look at all of those things, and then they're going to take a look at, any income that you may have, potential income in the future, such as your Social Security. If you're lucky enough to have a pension, they'll look at all of that to see how does that, really all that combined, how does that come together to help you get to what you visualize retirement looking like? So I definitely recommend starting with working with a planner.
Okay. And then now that they have a planner, I know sometimes you can do things before they work with the planner. And a lot of people right now that I've talked to who are on the verge of retirement, say they have like a year or two left,
Mhm.
they are looking to downsize or even move away from these high price cities.
Mhm.
What strategies do you suggest for them?
Again, taking a look at your income,
Mhm.
taking a look at your income. And even before you move to, another city, think about all the cost, because like right now, everything is so expensive. And so if you're moving to another city, you want to take a look at things like taxes, like how much are they charging for property taxes? What are income taxes? Because all of that is a real expenditure that you would have to pay, and it's going to have an impact on your Social Security income. And a lot of people going into retirement, they are going from having a salary, from their job to having this fixed source of income, that's going to have to come from replacing that salary. And what does that look like? So I think it's important to really understand what your financial situation looks like. I cannot emphasize enough working with a planner, because what I see in practice is that oftentimes people will come to me and they feel like they're ready to retire. They may be emotionally, mentally ready, but are they financially ready to retire? That's what's important. And even if they do want to move, let's make sure that that cost of moving, that is also in the plan. And then wherever it is that they're moving to, does it really make sense from a financial standpoint? And then also, does it make sense from, the way they visualize their retirement? Do you have family in that location? Because we don't want to forget that retirement is just not about the money, but it's also understanding, what does that look like? What do I want to do in retirement? How am I going to feel those 24 hours? Am I going to golf? And if so, maybe you want to be someplace like Florida, you want to be in Texas, you may want to be in Arizona, places that have, a high population of golfers. Are you going to be closer to family? Because there is a social aspect of retirement. And when we can make that connection, it makes a difference. My dad, he retired. He's a police officer, Chicago police officer, and he retired from the force. And I mean, he didn't really think about what retirement was going to look like. So I would say, like, within a year or so, he was working again. And not because he needed the money, but because,
Something to do.
he was
What?
like, what am I going to do with these 24 hours?
Right. Yeah, because
you
like my
know,
neighbor, which I really do appreciate to see what could retirement really look like for me. And I think for the young folks would be nice to get around some of the folks that are already retired to kind of just see what does that really look like, and do they want to have that
Absolutely.
life? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really important is just, and when you're younger, it's a little bit harder because, retirement might be 30, 40 years away. And so this idea of what do I want to do in retirement? I don't know. It can feel a little, kind of opaque, like I really can't see that, but, you know, I would recommend think about what you enjoy doing now. I think that's a great way just to get started. Are you a golfer? Are you someone who enjoys volunteering your time? Are you someone who enjoys spending time with your family or maybe your friends? Start thinking about now, what do I enjoy doing when I'm not working? And I think that can be a good starting point for saying, okay, I think I want to do more of this in retirement. A gentleman that I work with, and helping him with his plan, he likes helping people. So he's putting a plan in place such that by the time he's ready to retire, he plans to be a therapist and he's planning
That's
to open up.
awesome.
He's planning to open up his own practice and, do that in retirement. And I think that's a great idea. I think that's something that we have to think more about is like, some of us have these passions, deep down that we're not really pursuing because we're so focused on today and just managing our day-to-day lives. But there may be something that's deep down within us, our passion or purpose or something that we would love to do that if income was not an issue, that we would do. And that's one of the questions that I actually ask my clients when we are starting this process of retirement planning is if money is not an object, if you
Mhm.
got $1 million+, in the bank, what would you do?
Right.
And that's a good starting point, because I get just a wide variety of comments. One lady told me that she would start a bar, and I thought that's
That's
cool.
cool. That's cool.
Because she just likes that idea of, being able to connect with other people, So I do think that, when you're thinking about what does that future hold, start with today. Take money off the table, what would you do?
Yeah. And, we talked about the notion of what does life look like if we didn't have any chains holding us back.
Mhm.
But I want to dive into your story a little bit because
Mhm.
on your website, you say the only way we can get better with money is to share our stories and embrace our truth without shame, guilt, or
Mhm.
judgment. So, what is your story around money that kind of gets you to think things a little differently than others?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the work that I do is that, in my life, I was a first generation to go to college, and then I was a single mom. And my story is around, just wishing that I had had a better understanding of how money works. And what's interesting about my story is that I was a finance major.
Mm.
And so you would think like, oh, you're a finance major, you got it all together, but that wasn't the case, because even as a finance major, there is, they say that money is probably what, 80% emotional base and then
Yes.
maybe 20% logic, I understood the logic. I knew what a mutual fund was, I understood investments, I used to read Kiplinger's,
Right.
But what I didn't necessarily understand was the emotional side of money, and how our stories play into that, our narratives, what it is that we're telling ourselves about our past. How does all of that play into the way that we make decisions around our money, And I didn't realize that until much later in life. But I'll tell you this, I was not prepared, even as a single parent, going into corporate. I remember there was a time when I lost my job. I lost my job. I was a single mom. I didn't have any savings, and I remember, even to this day, I remember just thinking, like, well, what am I going to do? You
Right.
know? And I remember coming home and sharing with my son. He was maybe 7, 8, and I told him that I had lost my job. And, he couldn't really comprehend what that meant or what that impact would be on our family. I just remember him telling me, Mom, don't they know that you have a kid to take care of? And I still remember that, and we talk about it. He was like, I don't remember that, Mom, but I do, and it was so touching because, it was in that moment that I realized that, the way I managed my money, it wasn't just about me, but it was also about my son. And I hadn't given a whole lot of credence to that up until that point in time, and it was a really difficult time. I can still remember like lifting the seat cushions off of my sofa looking for change so I could put gas in my car, and like every time, this was during a time where gas prices were pretty high. So every time the gas prices would go up, I would be like, oh my God, how am I going to afford this?
Right.
It was like that. And, you can even probably say that it was probably a little bit of trauma associated with that. So there's something to it when we don't have enough resources just to manage the basic day to day, and eventually, through just like working temp jobs and, doing taxes on the side that I eventually came through it. But boy, did I grow from that.
Yes.
It was pretty painful. That's a painful place to be. I would never wish that on anyone. But the lesson that I learned from that situation was really that I had the ability and the power to decide how I was going to manage my money, and that made all the difference in the world for me, and I think for me, that was kind of like that light bulb moment when I said, you know what, I can't do this because it's not just about me. It's also about my kid. And even now, I still feel that way because I feel like, saving and investing and making sure that I have adequate resources saved for retirement. It's not just about me because I do have a son and I don't want to be a burden to him. So I want to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to be a good steward over my resources and not to have that type of impact on my son's life.
Yeah. So what was something that helped you along the way? Like, was it like a planner, a calendar? Like, what did you use to kind of keep you going? Because I know, like, if you didn't have money to even put gas in the car, I'm sure you didn't have money for like a planner to help you out, a financial
Yeah, you
planner.
know what? I would say it's funny because I'm still a paper and pencil girl today.
Right.
I do. I have notebooks. I have notebooks and I would literally jot down like, my money, how much income I was bringing in, where that income is going. I still do that today. Yeah,
Nice.
I honestly do that today. And I'm in the process now of creating a planner to help other people do the same. And I think it's important today. I haven't gotten away from it because I really feel like as we move towards this digital age, we become more and more separated from our money. When I was growing up, we didn't really have debit cards like we do today,
Right.
I mean, you had cash, you have to go to the bank and take money out, and you see that deposit slip and you see your balance going down, you can feel that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you have money, cash in your wallet and you take it out, you can feel that. But as we move towards this digital age, you tap here, slide your card there. You don't really feel that. You don't even think about it. You're like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I just found out like a few months ago, I could just tap
Right.
my
Right.
card. And I mean, this sounds really bad. I'm probably like dating myself, but I'm just a tech person like that. And so I don't even like the way that feels is that I just tap my card and my money is gone. I don't even like that. And so the way I stay connected with my money, honestly, it is through just a notebook. I write down how much money I have coming in, and as a business owner, I do pay myself twice a month, just like if I was working for, a company or something, I have my payroll set up and I get paid twice a month and I still sit down with pen and paper, put down how much my income is and then what bills I need to pay. And then another tool that I use is Monarch Money. I love Monarch Money. And I like that because, you know, I'm not the person that's going to, I don't have time to check like every penny that comes through on my account, and even when I'm working with clients, I try to get a feel for what works best for them in terms of tools. Some people, my engineer types, they want to know to the penny where their money is
Yep.
going,
So
so
true.
we'll put a plan in place that works for them. And then there's some people who just don't have the time. I have some techies that they're like, look, we're not using tech tools because I don't believe in them. They're not comfortable with that, and that's okay. So we may use a banking system or a money management system for them, So I think what's important to understand is that everybody's going to be different, I like paper and pencil, because it makes me feel like I'm still very much connected to my money, but everybody is going to be different, and making sure that they have a system that works for them is going to be really key.
Yeah. And I'm asked because for you personally, it's because I never heard the story before. So, and one of the things is that I like about it is that I was also in that same boat. For me personally, even though I like technology,
Mm-hmm.
but when it comes to the money, I'm paper and pen. Like
Yeah.
just I gotta have a calendar. So
Yeah.
that's why I
Yeah.
created my
I
own
love that.
calendar. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I love that. And the way I use Monarch Money really is that I like to track my net worth,
Mm,
so it shows me what my net worth is. And then it is also helpful for understanding what are my recurring, expenses, so that I can take a look when I'm doing my paper and pencil method. I can also take a look at Monarch and see, okay, what bills are coming down the pipeline. I can see the timing of the bills, and then I can make sure that I'm recording that in my notebook.
that is cool. I mean, this show is not sponsoring Monarch Money or anything like that,
No, we're
but
not. It's just a tool that I like to
that's
use.
one of the tools, right? So just want to put that out there.
Right, exactly, exactly. I don't get anything from them.
Right. But if y'all listening, please hit us up like
Mhm. Yep, yep, yeah. If you're using it and you like it, let us know.
yeah. We're gonna dive into the third segment here, which is the features. Well, so this is where we talk about like the skills or habits that will take you to the next level. So which skills or habits that you feel that would be helpful for you to take yourself to the next level?
Okay, for me personally, or in conjunction with helping my clients.
For you personally.
So I would say personally is continuing to develop a positive and healthy mindset around money, and then destroying and tearing down those limiting beliefs
Mm,
that like to keep us, kind of like in a place where it's like a place. Sometimes it can be a place of lack, or just a place of where we're not really recognizing our full potential and working towards that full potential, and I think that is ongoing work. I still, get up every morning and, go through my, do my journal, and then go through and put down the three things that I'm grateful for.
nice.
So I
Yeah.
think that's important, and it helps me to stay grounded too, because I think in this age of social media, it can get really, I don't know, we can look at social media and just feel a little bad about ourselves, and
Yeah.
everything that I read about that, they talk about how excessive social media can be bad for our mental health. And I believe that. So, I try not to be on social media a lot. The skill sets that I want to continue to develop as a person is to, again, continue to understand, how my mindset is impacting, my goals, and, finding ways through professional development and just taking massive action to continue to just like bust through that, so to speak. And then one of the things that I'm actually doing now is I'm getting a certification as a financial therapist. You know,
Nice. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes. Because I think that it's really helpful in helping my clients to understand how their stories, their narratives are impacting the way that they interact with their money and their financial decision making around their money. So that's what I'm working on.
That is amazing because, well, you and I, we both know Rakim,
Yes.
and Rakim Sabri, he's been on a show, doing a live show before. And then
Hmm.
Ed Combs. So
Yes.
Ed Combs has also been on the show as well. And Yeah, I mean, you're going to be having some great circles, some great insight. And for
You
those
know
of you,
what?
yeah.
I'm looking forward to it too, because I saw both of those guys at the financial therapy conference
Oh, really?
about three
Nice.
weeks ago.
Oh, how was that conference, by the way?
Oh, it was great. It was great. It's just for me, it was confirmation that I am moving in the right direction.
Mhm.
You may start down a path and you're like, okay, am I moving in the right direction so that I can do what I want to do? It was
Yeah.
confirmation that yes, this is where you should be, interacting with my peers. Rakeem, he actually did a presentation, which was very good. And so did Ed. I saw both of their presentations.
Nice.
And it's just such a great learning opportunity. And I think I'm just a little fascinated with our minds and
Hmm.
how it works and how our experiences, our interactions and influences from our family, how does all of that impact us today? We don't
Yeah.
really think about it much because we're kind of operating on autopilot.
So
And when
true.
you stop and think about it, it's like, oh, wow, my parents did this, so they behave like this around money. Maybe that's having an impact on my ability to be able to save or not being able to save.
Hmm.
It's really, to me, it's fascinating and interesting stuff. And so, working with those guys and interacting with them and, having them there as resources, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. One of the things that I asked Ed during our interview, I guess I can ask you too,
Mhm.
which is what was your first fear of money?
Mm, my first fear of money would probably be not having enough to pay my bills, especially after losing my job, you
Got
know?
you.
So that would definitely be a fear. And I probably hold some of that today too, to be
Mhm.
honest with you. It's one of those things that, when you experience something like that, you never really let it go. But I do save more than I've saved in the past. I save for my future, for my retirement, my legacy, because leaving something to my son, that's important to me. So I do save for that. But I think for me, it would really be just that fear of like going back to that place where I did not have enough.
Yeah. I think the fear is like such a great motivator
It
for
can be,
everybody to
that's for
move.
sure. It can be, that's for sure. I'm telling you,
Right.
fear make you do some things and not do some things.
Talk about trauma, right? Man. So, one of the things that you mentioned earlier was talking about finding a planner.
Mhm.
I just want to go back to that for a little bit.
Okay.
Um, a lot of people say that they have a CPA or whatever, and a lot of people just don't know how to validate a lot of these certifications because somebody can say anything that they want to on a sheet of paper. But where can people go to kind of validate, a CPA license if they want to check it out?
So I would say if you can get a referral from someone, that's great. I think that would be the first step. If you know someone, ask around and say, hey, do you have a CPA? Now, I do want to make a distinguish between the CPA and then the CFP.
Okay.
So with the CPA, that's certified public accountant. I honestly do not really use that designation, because the designation, when you say CPA, the first thing that comes to mind is people think, oh, taxes,
Right.
she's a tax accountant. I just so happen to be a tax accountant, but I did not need the CPA to do that.
Hmm.
And so I think that's important is that all CPA, just because a person has a CPA, does not necessarily mean that they can help you with planning, or help you with your finances. It really depends on what area that they're specializing in. So financial planning can be a specialty within the CPA realm, just like taxes can. But oftentimes, people who actually utilize the CPA, there are people who are doing audits of businesses.
Hmm.
Okay. That is required if you're doing an audit of a business, okay, by law. On the other hand, if you are looking for someone who can help you with your finances, it's really going to be dependent on where do you need the help? because there are a number of designations. You have the certified financial planner. You could be, working with an accredited financial counselor, so there are a number of designations, even the RICPA, and I think that's RICP, that's like a registered, is it retirement income, something professional, so I think it really depends on your needs, when you're clear around your objective and your financial needs, then you can start just taking a look. I would recommend going to FINRA, FINRA.org. They will offer they'll show you all the variety of designations that are out there and like what those people typically will specialize in. I would start there if you can't get a referral, You can also go to the CFP board's website, and that certified financial planner, the board that kind of governs our certification. You can go to their board and you can do some research there. And then once you find someone, then go back to FINRA and look them up to see, do they have any bad marks behind their names? Because they put all your business out there. When you don't do right, they put all your business out there, So yeah, they will. They're CFPs that have filed for bankruptcy. They put that out there, And so there's some, CFPs or even financial advisors, that have not done right by their clients. Well, if a client complains about that, that goes on FINRA's website. So you can always go out there and do some research around the planner. And then I would also recommend too, is that you try to find at least 3, that, specialize in what it is that you're looking for. So if you're going to be retiring in a few years, find someone that specializes in retirement planning, if you need help, getting out of debt or just doing basic money management, that may not be a CFP. You have to see if that CFP actually gets involved in that level, because a lot of them are really focused on investment management. They're focused on retirement planning, doing a financial plan for you. So you have to take a look at their background and then interview them and decide based on what your situation is, can they help me get to my end goal?
Right. And also your company is doing fiduciary work.
I am. Yeah. So, and what that basically means is that I am putting the needs of my clients first. I don't sell any products. The way that we get compensated is directly from the client. So if a client comes in, and I do both, I do coaching, financial coaching, as well as financial planning. And the difference between the two is really that investment component. The coaching is more so for clients who want to establish a good financial foundation. Maybe they have some debt, or maybe they feel like they're not managing their money as well as they'd like to. Or one of the things I hear a lot from clients is that I make good money, but I'm not quite sure where it's going, And so if they want someone to help them with that, that's where the financial coaching comes in, because for me, education is just such a big deal. Financial education is a really big deal. And I want my clients to have those tools so that even if they're not working with me, 3-4 years down the road, and they decide, okay, I'm trying to make some financial decisions here, I need some tools to do that. And so they have that. My goal is to give them that skill set that they need so they can do that, And then if you're looking to, do a financial plan, which is generally someone who has some financial goals that they want to achieve, and they're trying to figure out what's the best investment vehicle to use, what's the best, strategy, taking into consideration taxes, the variety of investment vehicles that are available, maybe even retirement, how do I, get there most efficiently? And also in my case, I focus on the taxes too. So how do I get there in a tax efficient manner?
That makes sense. All right. So before we dive into the final 4 questions, are there anything else that you want to leave the audience with?
What do I want to leave the audience with? Yesterday I was reading about debt, and I think one of the things that I really would like for people to understand is that when it comes to money, our happiness around money is not tied to our material possessions. that happiness, it really comes from within us. And I would really like for people to just to get that part, to understand that, because again, going back to this consumer driven culture that we live in, it's always pushing products and it's pushing stuff. And, they do such a great job of making us feel inadequate, like I just don't have enough. I need more stuff. I need a bigger house. I need this. It's like, I get so annoyed. Can't you tell? I get annoyed by that because of what I see in practice. I see people who, get into, debt, and then they're struggling trying to get out of it. And I know that debt has an impact on our mental health, and that it creates stress and anxiety. And for a lot of people, it's having an impact on their ability just to be happy. And so I would really want people to understand, to just take a moment and be still and just think about what really makes me happy, and then how can I utilize my money in a way that goes towards my happiness and my values. And when we think about that, I will guarantee that for most people, it won't be stuff. I just asked my mom this question a couple weeks ago, and we were sitting here just talking. I said, Mom, what makes you happy? Yeah. And she thought about it for like 2 seconds. And she said, my family. And that's going to be true for most people. It's going to be things like our relationships. It's going to be things like, are we, moving in alignment with our purpose, with our passion? Are we doing things that we love? Are we serving? It's going to be things along those lines. It's not going to be the material stuff. And so what I would say to people is that just really, before you spend your money, let's be mindful. Let's be mindful of what's really important to us and what brings us the most fulfillment, and then utilize your resources so that they align with what's important to you.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Oh man, I could ask so many questions because I want to ask you about the camera in the background. Like, are we taking photography? Is that what makes you happy?
You know
like,
what? I used to. I was actually, yes, I used to. When I was in high school, my dad bought me my first 35 millimeter camera. And so I used to be on the yearbook staff, and I used to take pictures. I used to go around just taking pictures. Ask anybody in high school, and they'll tell you, a lot of my pictures are in the yearbook because I took pictures for the yearbook. I love it. I still love photography. I don't get a chance to get into it as much. It's gotten so technical,
Yeah,
it's like I got to sit down. But I think for me, as I approach retirement, if I ever retire, because I love the work that I do, but I would get more into photography again.
That is awesome. Yeah. That is what, for any person that comes on and start talking about retirement, I'm gonna have to ask them that. Like, what would be your passion for retirement? Like, what does retirement look like for you?
Absolutely. Like that's an important question. Mm-hmm. That's where the planning starts. It really does.
That's true. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So you ready for the final 4 questions?
I'm ready for the final 4. Bring it.
All right. So number 1, what does wealth mean to you?
I think wealth means to me, what does that mean to me? I would say when I think about wealth is not just money. That's the first thing I think is important, but what's important to me when I think about wealth, I think about my values, and my values, they align with my family. And making sure that I can help and support my family in any way that I can. I am one that does not like debt, and it's not to say that debt is bad. I'm not going to go that far, because I do have credit cards, and, I love to take advantage of, their rewards and, things along those lines. But not get swept away into debt, not the way that this culture pushes consumerism and getting into debt. But, when I think about wealth, I think what's important to me is really being able to leave a legacy, being able to help my family and support my family. That's what wealth means to me. It's financial independence and having the ability to do what I want when I want to do it with whom I want to do it with.
Sounds like a plan. All right. Number 2. What was your worst money mistake?
My worst money mistake was taking on student loan debt without really understanding student loan debt and what that meant, and how I was going to pay that back. So I would say that's really the biggest mistake. And what's interesting is that I find that in practice today is that a lot of people are doing the same thing. One of the things I see in practice too is like with the plus loan. I just listened to this book and I can't think of the name right off the top of my head, but the book was about how student loans came into existence. And it's such an interesting story. And it's also a sad story because Congress could have done something around student loans a long time ago. They just choose not to. And even today, they choose not to because they utilize student loans to help them balance the budget. Because to me, just this idea that, student loan interest, what they charge is so high. It's like, you guys could do something about that, but they don't want to because it does help them balance the budget, and even today, Congress still hasn't done anything around schools increasing the rate of inflation. I mean, not the rate of inflation, the rate of college, the way that they're doing, which is really surpassed the rate of inflation, and they created the plus loans so that because they realized that parents were going to send their kids to school by any means necessary. So now you got the plus loan, and that there are parents out here who are taking on these loans that are never going to be able to pay them back. That's the one thing that I see in practice. So I would say as an undergrad, I was able to go to undergrad, didn't have to pay that much for it, and then I was a veteran. So majority of that was paid off. But when I got my master's, I really wasn't thinking about, the student loan debt. I just knew, I was coming out of the pile. I was going to be a CPA. I was going to pay it back,
Right.
And so, in my case, it has worked out for me, but, that's not the case for everybody, And so, those student loans, they definitely impact our ability to build wealth.
Definitely. Okay. Number 3. What is your favorite financial or non-financial book?
Okay, that's a hard one because I read a lot. I'm trying to think if there's one that I have read. There's one I like. I don't have it in front of me, but I think this is the title, and it's called Financial Recovery. I like that one because I think it's one of the first books that I read about understanding the mindset of money, understanding how our experiences, our stories, how all of that plays into how we interact with our money. And I can't remember the lady's name, but I think the name of the book is called Financial Recovery because I read that one a couple times, and it's also helpful in my work that I do with my clients.
Nice. Yeah, and the lady's name is Karen McCalls.
That's it. Yep, that's it. Thank you. You're so efficient.
I mean, this is my job to help everybody look good,
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
No problem. And I'll make sure if you guys just play it back, or if you really need me to put in the show notes, let me know in the comments if you want me to put in the show notes. I can. It's no worries.
Absolutely.
All right. Number 4. What is your favorite dish to make?
What is my favorite dish to make? Let's see. I would say vegan chili. Yeah, vegan chili. And I think that it's because like when we were in COVID, my son came home for about 5 months or so, and we went on this vegan journey together,
That is cool.
Yes, and that was one of our favorite meals was vegan chili. It was so good. So I still make that and it's good.
Nice. So yeah, we might have to send me a picture, or probably work something out. Maybe use my frequent flyer miles to fly out there, like get a bowl.
Okay, absolutely.
So we got the very last question of the show, which
Mhm.
is, where could people find out more about you?
So I am on a number of different platforms. You can go to my website, which is retirereadyinc.com. I'm on social media as Retire Ready too. So on Instagram, Facebook, and then on LinkedIn, I'm on there as Renee K. Collins. So I'm out there, and really trying to just put out some educational content to really help people better manage their money.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Renee, so much for your valuable information. You provided at least a lot of information for me. I don't know about the rest of y'all that are listening, but I mean, because to rethink retirement is something that I would like to get to. And I don't look at it as an age, but more so like, how long will it take me to make enough money so I can just be retired? But also, like, what does that really look like, and will I be happy with myself?
Absolutely. And you're right. It doesn't have to be an age. And for some people, their retirement for them may be leaving something and going to something. Just as the client that I mentioned earlier, who he's a business owner. And so, he wants to retire from that and retire to something else.
That
So
is cool.
yeah, so it could be just thinking about retirement a little bit different. Everybody may not necessarily want to just, kick back and, sip lemonade and watch the grandbabies. They may want to they may want to do something else. But the key is to start thinking about it now, so that you can bring that dream or that visualization into reality.
Yes. And with that, everybody, that's the conclusion of the show. Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
You too. Take care. Thank you.
You're welcome.